In terms of like, would you guys go into like influencer matchmaking stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
For real.
So we did. People forget about this, but I was at the forefront of signing AKA and Casper to fight.
Oh, that's fighting talk.
Welcome to it. This is Fighting Talk with myself, Tshuck, and we have a guest, none other than the biggest face in mixed martial arts, South Africa, the matchmaker extraordinaire, Graeme Cartmell.
Hello.
Sheesh, matchmaking. In terms of like, with that, what gravitated you towards matchmaking, especially in the mixed martial arts scene?
Wow. So Kara and I were, we were training MMA.
Kara being the president. Shout out to Kara.
Yeah. So Kara and I were training MMA.
It's true.
Man, I want to say like 18 years ago. And okay, so how I got into it is I was always a fan of MMA or boxing.
It's true.
I used to box as an amateur when I was really young.
Okay.
And did a bit of judo. My dad was a top judo guy.
It's true.
And pushed me into that direction. So I kind of had a handle on both sides of that
ends,
coin.
yeah.
You know, the grappling and the stand-up. Loved the boxing. Really loved it. Boxed out of Dan Bushney out in Maritzburg.
What age are you at this time?
I was 13, 14.
Okay.
So I didn't start as young as some of these other guys.
True.
I mean, but it's not that there's levels to this game. I mean,
Yeah.
I just enjoyed it. You know, tried a bit of amateur fights and fun, you know.
Yeah.
And what had happened was that was my segue into kind of kickboxing, Muay Thai. When I was in my 20s, I was working at the bank. I was doing Muay Thai. Really enjoyed that.
Okay.
And there was a whole new world, really, because nobody had even really heard of Muay Thai.
Was
back
looking
then.
into that, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of very, very out there. And I trained with a group of guys. It's funny because young guys like Adam Speechley trained at that Muay Thai gym.
Okay.
And he was this guy doing grappling. And we were like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
You know, like what is going on? And there
ground
wasn't a
thing.
BJJ movement. It was
Okay.
just literally grappling. And I then Richard Kwan and Cairo actually met Richard Kwan at a coffee shop. I bumped into him. He was wearing some MMA style stuff and befriended him. And Richard said, come. And we were literally his first students.
For real?
Well, I mean...
Yeah,
you know,
one of the first in that crowd.
Well, I would say like literally his first students. We used to go to... There was a taekwondo gym upstairs from next to the Grand. What's his name? I forget the guy. We used to go there and train with Richie.
Yeah.
And Muay Thai. No MMA stuff, just Muay Thai. And a lot of our mates, we started introducing into it.
Getting them in.
And eventually you had guys like Norman come in as a guy training, and you had guys like Darren Daniel who just came in and
Yeah.
you know, he was from like an inherently kung fu style background, and that built that scene. We were just involved in it. It was amazing. We saw
Yeah.
no scope for being in the business at that stage. We were just having fun.
And also, you guys weren't trying to compete at that time.
No, it was just fun. It was
Yeah.
just like it was a young dudes meeting at after work at 6 o'clock, running up and down Santon and fighting,
Training,
and
yeah.
punching each other in the head. It was friggin' awesome. and Cairo was, you know, back and forth there. It was cool. And then when they moved gyms, I kind of took up a more established role of helping train the new guys in Muay Thai, because I'd been there for a couple of years and we'd been doing it, so I really enjoyed that side of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, spent a lot of time with Richie, you know, working the ins and outs. And I kind of soft managed some of the guys because there was a scene growing in MMA. You couldn't
South
even
Africa
call
at
it.
that
It was
time.
like guys were trying to do shows.
Okay.
And I was helping manage a few guys there. I was helping hold pads for Darren and Gareth McClellan and being in the corner for some of the guys. And I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I was working at the bank, wealth management at the time. And one day, Kara and I were trading, and he said, I want to start the UFC of Africa. I was like, fuck, that sounds awesome. I'm in. Where do I sign up? And I literally, if you look at the time frame, it feels so strange, but it was just like a 1-2.
The growth of
We're
it.
in business
yeah.
together.
Yeah.
and I came on board as a partner in the business, and initially just as a matchmaker to put fights together.
Yeah.
And I was contacting Wade Henderson out the blue, and I was phoning Dallas Jacoby and talking to managers and trainers, and like, no, we're starting this event. It's called the EFC, and I'm like, okay, what is that? And Calvin, Silas, and Cairo, had a production business prior to that, so they understood the idea of selling the idea via video. We created this promo video of EFC using Gareth and all these guys, and we hadn't even fought. There was not even one EFC, and I went around with my laptop and this video going
just
to
pitching
guys
it.
This is what we're gonna do. And Dino met him in where does he say, Springs? He's from Edenvale.
Okay.
So I could sit there with him like, this is what we're doing in the news cafe. He's like, okay, sounds awesome. I'm in.
And I'm sure, like, at that time, like, it was just like something so big to even fathom in terms of like it can be done in South Africa.
Fully. I mean, there was a show here that we went to go see at Standard Bank Arena, and we were like, no,
this is not.
We had this vision of UFC.
Yeah.
So we were like, this is not UFC quality, and if anything, like you're watching guys fumble, and if they are going to start there and not see something bigger, there was no scope for it.
Yeah.
And from that, it was really easy to pitch the idea of a UFC style-esque show, because we were coming with that production quality and the Coca-Cola Dome and big venues. And I remember going in there, the first show, literally, we were trying to put this cage together, and there was like cable. We were freaking cable tying the cage. Because the guy who did the cage he'd done boxing rings, and he'd never built a cage like this.
Yeah, like Higgs.
We sitting there with, like, the guy didn't know what he was doing. We were shitting on him, but he was like, I don't know.
Yeah, where's this part supposed to go?
I remember doors opening and people coming through, and just like thousands of people pumping through that place. And that's where it started. And for me, putting fights together has morphed into a lot of different variations of what people would consider matchmaking. It goes from just great ideas where anybody that you phone is like, I'm in. I don't care who I fight. So really, that is the version of matchmaking that everybody has a fantasy about. When they step in here, we've hired Ashley as a new matchmaker. He's my matchmaker assistant. He's pumping out great fights, but I think that he's also gone, this is not what I envisioned.
Pictured,
because you would sit there going, okay, here's a board, you got those guys, that makes the most sense, let's just do that fight. That is the best version, but you need to have all the systems in place in order for that to take place.
To happen,
Now.
Yeah.
Back then, you were doing it just by virtue of guys wanting to be in MMA and be in a show. I remember Wenzel now, like EFC 3, runs up to me, he's like, where do I sign? No, he's like EFC 1, or I don't know, it was like one of the early ones.
One of the early
like,
stages.
where do I sign? I said, we don't even have contracts of service. Like, we're doing this based on,
just relationships,
people wanting to be there. And I think he was our first contracted athlete, and he became our first champion.
Damn.
So it's been a big learning curve for all of us, but I think matchmaking right now, it bleeds into a lot of like stylistic stuff, and that's because the sport has morphed. So my evolution has been like a personal one and also the sports one.
Sure.
I'm so grateful in many ways because of that. Like, because I was there at inception, I kind of get a feel for a lot of things. It's the weirdest description to people, because they're like, what is the metric? How do you matchmake? What makes sense here? You get so into it that you know what makes sense. And
I was
also the background behind whether that guy's ever going to take a fight with that guy. Immediately when Ashley says, should we do that? I'm like, that's not going to happen.
So is it a matter of like, because I was about to ask that, like, did you, like, who was your blueprint, or was it straight the UFC,
as an event, as a business, a promotion, UFC has been the Bible for us, 100%. We've looked at whatever they've done, and we've always looked at other guys who've done other stuff, other promotions. We've gone, what the hell are you doing? Why are you changing the Bible? Those guys have the money, they've led the charge, they've been in longer, they've made the mistakes, so don't make the same mistakes to create a new thing. You've got it right there. So we were like, follow what they do. As a matchmaker, there is no blueprint. I mean, I looked at Joe Silva in the early days. He was the first UFC matchmaker. And I was like, what is this guy doing? How is he doing it? And I'd work it on, okay, cool. Because I'm like a data type of guy. So I'm like, okay, well, the win streak finishes, blah, 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 blah. But data aside, you can look at the best data and the fight doesn't make sense. So you can't run a system where you're like, these guys fight each other, the guys tear up, like the tournament. Tournaments don't work. Tournaments don't work.
Like in the PFL formats type.
Well, even PFL are changing their format. They have to because they realize they're boring fights. If you start putting boring fights together, you don't have a business.
In a tank, yeah.
Who cares about fighting if it's not the two most interesting in the room
True
guys
people.
in the room
Yeah.
fighting? If you get 1,000 guys in a room and you're like, okay, well, those two guys are the most experienced. Who the fuck are they? But those two guys have been talking shit about each other,
Beefing.
and they're a big fight, and they like to stand and bang. Put them in a hexagon.
So beefs help in your job.
Beefs help because they also drive the intensity of the athlete to want to be there, right? So it's
Okay.
also, this is a human element, right? So you're sitting with two guys, and they're great athletes, but they don't really want to fight each other. Case in point here, Dricus du Plessis, Israel Adesanya, the African narrative.
Yeah.
It's huge. Israel he sold that in his soul.
It's all about African.
It's not about Dricus. It doesn't matter in that narrative. It's Israel has sold it in his soul that this is what I want.
Yeah,
I'm going to prove that he's not African.
yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Dricus can't take the fight. He's injured. So what happens? They give him Strickland.
Boom,
A
yeah.
guy that Israel should have walked. I mean, Oliveira punished him in the first round, knocked
Yeah,
him out.
yeah.
So technically, this is a stupid
Pereira,
fight. What
you mean.
happens in Israel's soul? It dies. He's like, dude, I don't want to be here. The money doesn't make sense. The fame, whatever. At a certain level, it needs to be in your
Fueled by inside.
fueled by
now,
something
yeah.
else. And so you see Dino, these guys, like, money's okay for them. Martin van Stalen, money's good. Boyd, money's good. The reality is, when they get somebody there that has something, it doesn't necessarily need to be a beef. It's like, it's a fire to beat that guy for...
It ignites.
It ignites. Dude, that is the reality of the business that there's no metric over. So we put fights together on prelims based on this guy should be fighting this guy, blah, blah, blah. You get to the main card, you're like, hang on a second, okay.
Yeah.
Opener's got to be a real
Selling,
firecracker.
yeah.
Then you go into, and it's like you can really mess up based on norms. So like I know inherently there's certain types of guys that love to take a dive in. They get hurt. Ball shot, back of the head shot,
True.
they'll play it up.
Yeah.
And then I kick myself. Why did we put that guy on the main card?
Yeah.
Oh, but he's winning 5-0. Doesn't matter if he's 5-0. If it's the moment's too big, he will crumble based on the situation. So
True.
those factors bleed into matchmaking,
Yeah.
which is so interesting because I can't teach Ashley that. I can only go, walk with me, let me show you how we
The
do
ropes,
this.
yeah.
And you'll pick it up along the way, and the little nuances of,
You kind of figure it out.
you'll
no?
figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. How frustrating is it in terms of like when fighters pull out of a fight? Case in point, like the last pay-per-view with EFC 108, Bad News and Fantonda for a title fight.
Yeah.
So, and getting a replacement as we got like in 10 hours time. So how frustrating is those type of scenarios when people pull out, especially in a big magnitude of a title fight?
Yeah, I think it's more frustrating for the fans, like Conrad not being able to fight Dino.
Yeah.
I think it's more frustrating for the fans. For us, for me particularly, because of the time I've spent doing this and the amount of hair I've lost. I used to be really
You had an afro.
I was styling.
Yeah.
Because I've weathered that storm so many times.
Makes sense.
I'm not numb to it. I get excited by it because I realize it's a challenge now. Now it's a challenge. And what really gets me up in the morning is now fostering new relationships. Phoning Terence Belelo, having a whole new relationship, because offering a guy when he's got 8 weeks or 10 weeks a title fight,
Yeah.
and there's this and that, and it's a known opponent, and we're going to build it up, and all these
Yeah.
things, is very different to phoning a guy and going, you get another Hail Mary pass, let's do this. And him and I have a new bond. Now it's strange. I respect him more.
I can imagine
have
the
a better
appreciation.
friendship.
Yeah.
MMA fight promoter friendship now. Like
Yeah.
I've got his back because he had my back.
Yeah.
Relationship, even though it all worked out.
Yeah, in the toughest time in terms of like just 10 hours notice, you know.
Yeah,
for
and
a
he
big-
did it. So
Yeah.
yes, it's frustrating. I'm sorry, fans. Like it's the nature of the beast
Mm.
we're dealing with. But hell, man, it gets exciting. And I phoned Ashley. I was at the gym, pumping the iron.
Yeah.
And I phoned him. I said, Ash, now it's time. You've got a job now. Now this is the time we work. And he's like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I said, we flipped the script. One's out. We've got to find a new a fighter. What do we do? And he was
Yeah.
like, okay. And he just got on the blower and phoned.
Makes sense. Makes
We
sense.
made it happen. It was
Yeah.
cool.
It was crazy. Like that fight was insane. given in terms of like the time notice that they had. But like in terms of like now, as you're speaking about relationships and like that's one bond that you've built. What about the ones where you actually hated on? I feel like it would probably be like a lonely road in terms of like matchmaking fights. Yeah, like how's that in terms of like now you're everyone's enemy pretty much?
It's the Vince McMahon story, right? The Dana White story. You know, I don't care. I'm not referencing them because I think I'm Dana or Vince, but I understand the role that they play in the business.
Makes sense.
I am that role for Africa. Why is that guy with the glasses and the blonde hair such an asshole? Basically.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I'm not. I just have a job to do. And I've got to make some horrible decisions and deliver the bad news.
Yeah.
You know, or I could be your best friend and be delivering the good news that the promotion needs me to deliver, and make the decision that, you know, we've collectively made as a business, but have to deliver it to one person who gets affected. So I understand that role is so critical because it also helps drive a relationship with the fan and the business, because they like either love or hate, not just 3 letters, but a personality behind it. They can either go, I kind of like him for this, or I dislike him for this. And what I've learned over time is to be more authentic, because you do play a role in the early days of the business because you think that's what you have to stand up to be and to be. But I've morphed. I'm too old now, man. I've got to be me. I can't live this role. You know, I'm chilled. I have fun with athletes. I talk shit. Sometimes I get irritated with them, but okay, so what? You know, I'm going to express my irritation because I feel like that's the relationship we should have. And that's where a lot of brooding comes from. And I think the only guys who dislike me are guys that have sat in the gym and have created a narrative in their heads amongst each other that there's a victim mentality. They don't like me because he doesn't like me because of this.
Why am I not getting the title fights?
You have the biggest platform in Africa and one of the best in the world. And I say best in the world because it has the trademark elements of the biggest brand in the sport in the world. In terms of, this is a UFC-esque business, but it's so family orientated and so easy to walk the road and the career here. You can make a real career. And why do you think internationals come and fight here? They love coming here because for them they're like, oh my God, this is easy. And I want to, and you know, I get blown up all the time on my phone from guys that we've worked with in the past, because every time we move away from each other and their athletes go into other promotions and UFC, their new breed of guys come through and they're like, hey, this is the best path to walk for your early career and to get you to where you need to be. So I understand, man. I'm happy to wear that moniker of bad guy. It should be Cairo. But everyone likes Cairo for some reason.
Because he's not making the tough decisions.
He makes the tough decisions as well, but I got to deliver the news.
But I mean, like, you there in the hexagon, you there putting
it's just being front-facing with the athletes. That has bred that contempt. You know, I've often walked into gyms. I remember I walked into Fight Fit, it wasn't Quan Vessels yet, Fight Fit, and Chad Hanacom pulled me aside. He says, I really respect you for being here on your own. You know, and I was like,
no security, no nothing.
Well, the thing is, those were my guys. Like, I came up with them. You know, I've got nothing but love for them. So, but some guys sit on the mat all day and get frustrated at the decisions we make. And also the decision we make in a business and go, you know, anyway.
Damn, but like, so in terms of how hectic it is it a matter of only like within like 2 weeks of fight week, or like is it always demanding? And like in terms of like now with your life outside and balancing the two, how does that go?
My life outside of MMA is peaceful because my life within MMA is peaceful. Okay. I don't ever, I've learned to accept that I'm never not working. So I'm never not engaged with an athlete or talking to a manager or trying to make a decision because, you know, you want to keep it separate. I wanted so desperately in the early days to be EFC matchmaker, but I wanted to do other things, you know.
Okay.
But because of the nature of sport and fandom, you have to be the business. You have to be with the business all the time. And because of the nature of athletes, they have different hours, right? So you got a majority of the guys who are working 9 to 5s, killing themselves, supporting their families, and then going to a gym to have snot beaten out of them in order to train for a fight.
Yeah.
You can't go, please call me in office hours.
Makes sense.
So
Yeah. You don't have that luxury.
I don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
And also, the relationship beyond that is, guys, every single one of these guys needs guidance at a certain level, because they've never gone to the big leagues. They've never gone to the Bellators, the UFCs, and had to deal with those elements.
True.
So if that comes on their doorstep, who better to talk to them than guys like us who work in that space all day, every day, and know how to navigate those corridors. And we're always open to do it. So there's a lot of like guidance in that way. And I think that in their heads and in ours is that, if a guy's phoning me at 1 o'clock in the morning, there must be something wrong. So I've learned to accept the business for what it is, that it is more of a family business than I ever thought it would be. And guys come and go, and still guys circle all the time, and like it give me a lot of joy. Like example, seeing Sizwem Nakati, I haven't seen him in quite a long time. He hasn't been on a card, and I'm like, I know this guy since he was a kid.
Yeah.
Since he was a kid, I was a kid.
Yeah.
There might be 5 years difference in age.
Yeah.
Like you grow up with him,
Yeah.
So in
I
that
can
way,
imagine.
you need it's a heart and soul position, and that's why I think Ashley is doing well at this. He's an old athlete of ours who has been with me for many years. So he kind of knows exactly that style of how we operate.
Okay, let's talk about in terms of like the business sense now. What has been, I want to know in terms of like the impact that COVID had on the EFC, because I know that you guys would travel and all of that, and that's one of the hindering parts that that happened with COVID and lockdown. So what has been the changes, and like how did you guys adjust to that?
Great. So, great question, because COVID probably was, I think for me, on a personal level, blindsided the hell out of me from like, there was like, if I'm so invested in the business and now there is no business.
Yeah, it was major shock, and sports especially. Sports took a huge hit in terms of COVID.
It got flattened.
Yeah.
And most people will talk on the sharpening of the pencil sense, which is a big component, because then you go, all right, so all the things we were spending money on, we can't spend money on now. We need to work. If we want to come back from the dead, which is basically what we did.
Yeah.
How are we going to do that?
Resurrected.
We were saved by an incredible library of fights, actually. Coming out of COVID, if it wasn't for our library of fights, I don't think we'd be around. The fact that people bought into EFC because and it made us realize how damn good EFC content is.
Yeah, the work
because we were putting on fights that we did a couple of years ago, and people were clicking on them, and 300 million views, and that like boosts your algorithm with Facebook, and you can monetize this and that. We're like, oh my God, we can save this business. We can start paying athletes and get things going again. So that was a great lesson for us of what makes money in this business. Everyone thinks it's one thing. Let me tell you something. The sports business is the scariest business you'll ever be in. It is worse than share trading, because it's the temperaments of people who are die-hard fans for something. It's not just money. You go, when your football team loses, you feel like your guts have been wrenched out. True. Imagine now on a personal level, you've got fighters, 24 fighters on a fight card, and you have relationships with them, and you hear to watch. Like, that also has a massive factor to do with how people invest in the business, because they really feel like beholden to making it work.
Yeah. There's some sort of like sentimental
So that
value
for us coming out, I don't know if we're going to be resurrected. We got resurrected by awesome algorithms, and our athletes stepped up. We paid them in shares, which still have an intrinsic value for them, when we sell out of that setup. And for us, that's huge. That's huge that our athletes stepped up, and we learned to do things here at the PI. So everything is housed in the PI. People still ask me, where do you guys have your events? Because I can't do it. You guys aren't around anymore. I'm like, listen, if you understand why the UFC still has the Apex Center and still uses the Apex Center.
Yeah.
Why? it makes money.
Makes sense.
It makes money. And it's going to these big venues is incredible. But you can't do them every single. We run 10 shows a year. To do them every single time, a setup like that's crazy. Here we've got our production offices here. Everything is set up in one place.
Yeah.
We can have an incredible event, send it around the world, and smile. And have people watch it on their favorite platform.
True, even online. So with that being said, we probably not going to see the EFC traveling to Durban, or like as you guys would.
I don't think for the foreseeable future, and when I say probably in the next year, no.
Okay.
Unless it's like, I don't want to speak no's over that, because that's the funniest thing. All of a sudden, you get a guy come back from wherever and he wants to fight in EFC, and you don't want to have it at the PI because it just makes no sense. You want to go to Main in Pretoria and you want to bang out a big freaking event, and 10,000 people are going to be begging for tickets. So you don't want to say no, we never. And our relationships with the Sun International Group are still strong.
Okay.
So it's not like we would ever go no. We'd still knock on that door and say, guys, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say no to it. There's always an opportunity.
No, it's a possibility. That's dope. That's good to hear.
We will travel across Africa. I'm not doing a Dana White and like trying to manifest it by talking shit. I promise you, we are planning it and it's going to happen.
Dang, for real.
We've got to do an event across Africa. It's like I'm on this group now with all these managers across Africa and trainers, and it's such a cool bunch of guys, and they host their events. And like some countries across Africa, there's no rain, so they've got like these outside massive
outdoors,
things. And we do it proper. I mean, we do it with the government that we choose to do it in that country and do it properly. But I look at that and the quality of fighters that we aren't accessing because of visa restrictions is so ridiculous. So we couldn't bring a DRC athlete in now, the heavyweight Cassis, because of visa restrictions.
For real.
And it's like so frustrating to know there's talent boiling up there, waiting to be discovered.
But you can't get them in.
So we'll go to them.
Yeah.
Put on big ass events, screen their name across the world, because that's EFC's greatest gift to these athletes is
true.
They sit here and they're like, oh yeah, no, you can see me on SABC and Supersport.
Yeah.
No, bro. You can watch me in hundreds of millions of homes.
True.
Because the reality is, there's guys in Ireland that are going to be watching tomorrow. There's guys in the US. There's guys all over the place that are going to be watching this. And it's insane. Like, our global reach is massive.
Damn, so what's the timeline? Do we have a timeline in terms of like
It'll be
Africa?
next year, I think. Yeah, it'll be next year for sure.
Then we have to be there.
Yeah.
We have to be there.
Better laid plans are happening now. Yeah.
But yeah, so in terms of like now partnership and like in sponsorships like the Capital and Dragon, how and Ignite having re-signed, how essential is that keeping the business afloat, World Sports Betting?
Massive. And I think we're at a really good stage with our partners. They understand our business. They know exactly what they get out of it, and EFC is one of those strange, because we're one of those early adopter businesses that if you notice anything that's big, any brand that's big in the last 10 years, they've started with us. Because to onboard with EFC is very much a relationship where we are like, what is your vision for your brand? We will do it. If we see an alignment, we're gonna do it 100%. And I think that's why there's a good relationship between us and our sponsors, as they're like, you get us and you really want to pump our brand.
Yeah.
And like you talk about the Ignites of the world, like the guys there have really come on board. They've now even segued into sponsoring guys like Drickus. And doing deals there with Drickus, which is amazing for us all. I think they're doing like a Secrets of Summer party at the UCT. That's like 30,000 people or something. That they pushing, and they're creating jobs, and so like those are the type of guys we want to be aligned with. Capital Hotel is one of the most awesome sponsors. Dragon, World Sports Betting for us is like what they've done for the MMA community is insane. Like they're not guys that just on board and go, okay, cool, we're here to sit. They're like, how do we get invested? Where do we look
I see they're even doing something in with Luke Michael in Cape Town.
I went to the launch of that. He's got a performance institute that World Sports Betting are involved with, and it's incredible. So big up to them, man. That's the dream, is when you have sponsors and you have partners that you want to constantly work with. That's all you can ask for.
Damn. Yeah, I can imagine. But okay, let's get into like the fighters now, and like the relationship in terms of like exports that we have.
Yeah.
We have Cameron, we have Dricus, we have Timber, we had your Soldier Boys,
We have Don Match.
Yeah. So like in terms of like that, what's like how proud are you in terms of like seeing athletes come from here and make it in the big stage?
Yeah.
Like the model that you guys had modeled after.
Yeah, so I think I'm always going to mention Dricus because of our friendship first, because we have a good friendship, and that's fostered out of just getting each other. Like, he gets our business, I get his vision, and I understand. I was using him as a litmus for how you should conduct yourself pre UFC. When he was our champion, when I was our welterweight champion, I was saying, guys, if you want to make something out of this, it's not when you go to UFC. It's you have the platform now.
Starts here.
Here, to make it here. And if you build up your business retinue and ability here, under this circumstance, when you do explode on the scene, the opportunities will flow. And that guy, when he was here as a welterweight champion, was opening up businesses and aligning himself with companies and building relationships that in COVID, he was like, cool, COVID's no problem. He kept all of his sponsors. Not one of them fell off because he built a relationship and said, okay, we're not gonna be doing this. Well, but don't worry, when we come out of COVID,
this is what's gonna happen.
And even now that he's gone to UFC, he's dropped none of them. Now the guys, you've got Prime scrambling for him. You've got freaking all these guys throwing money at him to do sponsorships.
To be aligned with them, yeah.
He still keeps his old school sponsors. Now that's something that you foster early. So when we talk about like going back to how proud I am, we've done nothing but build a platform, and that's taken everything. And the guys that get that will get it, and it's like this. I can't speak on it because I can talk about JP Pace and all these guys.
Sure.
They're all individuals. They've all taken their careers in different ways and handled it in different ways. But the guys that I always want to praise are the guys that look at this platform and go, that's where I started. Because if you're in denial about where you started, that's a problem. Yeah, you haven't really gotten to grips with the fact that what have you gained from us? What have we gained from you? The relationship's great.
Yeah.
Go out.
What put you there?
I would want me in my corner no matter what I did. Because our job is to promote. And when we see anybody doing anything awesome, we're like, yes. But if like you
don't acknowledge what you...
if you're getting frustrated with us or getting angry with us, you've gone on and doing your thing, man. And, you know, I've seen like guys get upset about us using or referring to them when they make it big. And I'm like, what? Is this not a vision that we all shared?
That we're all part of this together.
Is that not the vision that we all shared for us all to get big together? Am I missing something? I don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like we gain that much. We're not sitting going, okay, cool.
Yeah.
We're not going to sell more tickets because we align ourselves with the UFC athlete, but we're going to boost the hell out of them because we want the best for it. You know? So in many ways, I don't want to have pride with the athletes anymore. I want them to go out there and fulfill their dream, because actually I'm just proud of what I've done with EFC and what my partners and I and everybody that works here, because we've got an incredible team, and what they've done is more important. The fighters will come and go. We'll have 20 more guys from Africa going to the UFC. I don't want to be proud of them. I want them to use the hell out of us. I want them to go, I use the hell out of EFC to get there. Brilliant. We're here for you.
Yeah, because I mean, like, it is like the biggest stepping stone in terms of like getting to the UFC. That's your dream, you know. But yeah, in terms of like now, it's been announced that Dricus is fighting for the belt officially next year, Jan.
Yes,
How do you feel about that?
Dude.
Finally.
I've been shouting at him nonstop.
Is it?
What the fuck are they doing? I've had a lot of back and forth with TDP about this.
Yeah.
But
you're gonna be there for the fight.
I'll tell you my honest review. All right.
Okay.
I am quite frustrated as a fan, a fight fan. Now I'm wearing my fan hat.
Okay.
Okay, so if not that anyone UFC cares what I have to say.
I'm sure they're watching. They're listening.
Nah, no one cares. They're so in their own worlds. But the truth of the matter is, I understand what they did in the initial phase of not offering Drickus the immediate title fight. And
After
I think
Whittaker.
it's an old school tactic, and it's bitchy, and it's not cool, and it doesn't resonate with a company that I had in my head.
Okay.
Of not offering him the title fight because he was injured. That attitude of, oh, you don't want to play by our rules now and fight now in the 7-week turnaround.
Which is crazy.
Because you're not going to, because we've got our boy Izzy, you better jump to this now because this is the only opportunity you get, which is basically the message.
Yeah, it's like,
if you don't fight him now,
do this or.
do this or.
Yeah.
Do this or.
Yeah.
Without being the or. And then sitting in the office and every time, okay, well, what are we doing for Strickland's next title fight? Can we find two other guys? Oh, but Strickers. No, someone else. That's such
pretty much the
such
attitude.
an obvious low blow. And I'm like, yeah, guys,
The way they were so reluctant to make that fight is crazy.
And then go, okay, well, let's put 2 welterweights up there.
Yeah.
And I think it has strengthened my belief in his vision for his career even more. Because I know the ins and outs of it. And I go, he has a belief that he's going to be a world champion and nothing's going to stop him. Not even the UFC trying to navigate away from him.
Building a narrative.
They're trying to be bitchy to him and trying to like sideline him for a bit
Suppress,
to show
yeah.
him a bit of a lesson. Okay, cool, no problem. It's okay, G. We're going to rock and roll. We're going to rock and roll. It's like, comes out, puts on a bad or average performance and hurts his hand. Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay. You want me to fight now? Cool, I'm there. Okay, guys. Be the
Yeah.
company. He's the best company man you're ever going to have. Because
But they were trying to turn a blind eye to that, like for some reason. For not
the
taking
reason
the
I
fight.
wanted to say it is because I think that people are just happy that he's getting to fight the title. But I need, in my world, I need people to know that that's not the right way to promote fights.
to go about it, no.
Work with the guy, man. See what his situation is at that level.
Yeah.
It just shows you didn't consider him as one of your boys. And when he becomes a champion, watch the script flip.
Yeah.
He'll be their greatest boy
Yeah.
ever. They'll
Yeah.
dance for him.
Makes
right?
sense. Makes
and
sense.
And that's that from my mouth to this situation, that's what's going to happen. 100%.
Sticking to the team at CIT, Cameron took his first loss. Also with an opponent who didn't make. Yeah, over. How do you assess that? How do you feel about that?
Man, those guys take fights. They don't fuck around. They're there to be the best in the world. They don't care about excuses. I don't think one of them has turned around and said he's 4 pounds over and this is the reason. They said, look, this is it. Cameron's so young, guys. So young. Like, he's a baby in fighting. The baby fighter.
Yeah.
He'll be one of the greatest fighters to ever come out. I genuinely believe that in my heart. He'll be one of the greatest talents to ever come out of this place. Because to do what he's done at his age and to carry himself with such big shoulders, broad shoulders already, he's going to blow everyone away.
Have you spoken to him after losing?
I haven't spoken to him after losing. I sent him a message. And that was kind of the conversation we had. I mean, he was like obviously gutted about it, but I think that there's such great things for that guy to come because, you talk about putting fights together. If you understand someone's narrative, you can tell what their mindset is. Like I know that guy's mindset. For somebody to sit in EFC as a kid under 11 in Carnival City, because his dad worked for the group, for the Sun International group. His dad brings him to the events, and the kid's never done any martial arts, and he's watching EFC, and he's like, "Dad, I'm gonna do this one.
I want to be part of this." Yeah.
Meeting Cairo and his heroes like Drickus,
Yeah.
meeting all these guys and doing his thing, and then signing with the promotion, and you're like, okay, and then smoking everybody. It's like it's destined for some big stuff. It's
crazy.
I think he's just had facial surgery now. Facial surgery, so he's got to undergo that.
Like a knock, yeah.
Yeah, and then next year I think he's going to take that whole division by storm, and it's a badass division.
Definitely.
But thank goodness, you imagine losing in a UFC highly touted fight as your first loss.
True.
It's like doing the hardest thing you can possibly do.
True.
Like but early in your career. Because losses are horrible, but guys experience losses and they go through that, and it's small little blips.
Yeah.
So they'll lean back on them.
Yeah.
This is so huge. When guys lose
On the biggest platform.
man, when guys lose at that level, it's like, I feel it. It's hardcore, but thank goodness, because you're gonna get over it. And what are you gonna be? Even stronger.
Definitely
even
a badass.
more mentally prepped than ever. Going, you know what? Thank God I got that L under my belt.
And also now you know what it is in terms of losing at such a big platform,
Yeah.
and you know what it takes to bounce back. You
Yeah.
know, other than like losing their first time, and like now you're just confused, you don't know
Exactly.
where to go.
It doesn't get harder than that. Basically. There's guys that I remember in some of the fights. I walked in and guys had maybe had one fight with us, and we'd put them against monsters, throwing them again in the deep end. And the guy comes out and he'd lost a 3-round war, and he's like pissing blood, and he's like, and I'm like, it's never going to be as hard as this again.
True.
Remember this moment, because this is as hard as it gets. Everything from
True.
here is like a downhill. It's easy, but not a downhill as a negative. A downhill is this is easy.
Nah.
I had my hardest fights when I was freaking in my 20s.
True. When I was still first starting out.
I was a baby.
Yeah.
I had the hard ones.
Yeah.
Bring on anybody now.
Crazy. And also like losing to a prospect, because I mean like Christian is also looked at like it was the biggest thing in terms of like the new breed.
Exactly.
And people that could take over in that division. So in terms of like, would you guys go into like influencer matchmaking stuff? Like
Yeah.
yeah, for real.
So we did. People forget about this, but I was at the forefront of signing AKA and Casper to fight. Casper. We had penciled that in. It was not just a conversation. AKA had the contracts. Kenan had the contracts. Casper had the contracts. I went to go meet Casper's manager. Everything was set. We were rolling along. We were discussing first rights for sponsorships, how that's going to work out. It was looking good. And then what happened is, Kenan, AKA, went on Twitter and said something like, "Fuck you," blah blah blah, some hardcore stuff. And YFM phoned me and said, "Will you do an interview on it?" And I said, "Yeah," because for me, I'm a promoter, so my job is, if we're sitting at the table and we're talking about fighting, you want to fight? You want to fight? Cool. Deal them in.
Yeah.
We're playing.
Yeah.
Oh, but no contracts. We're playing though. We're going to get to the contract. But we're playing, right? So if somebody says something about somebody at the table and you've dealt in, it's all fair game. Let's get going. This is what's hyped. This is what sells the fight, right? And I remember Casper's manager was like, "No, we're not dealing with this level."
Dang.
But I understand they had his level of sponsorship and his image, public image, is cleaner than AKA's was.
Yeah. Damn.
And
So that's how
anyway,
that fell through.
and shout out to him and his family. That's like what happened was insane.
Yeah, super tragic.
Very
RIP
tragic.
to the goat.
And he was I loved him. I never had a bad time with him. I thought he was a hell of a guy. Anyway, so we were going to do that, and that would have been our segue. And then Chad the Don phones me. He's like, I love Chad. He's like, I'll fight one of them. I was like, okay, well, I've got to
I'll
and
take
then I
it
was
on
like,
short
okay.
notice.
And now I'm brainstorming. Okay, who's next? Burner Boy. Let's get Burner Boy in. Yeah. Freaking Burner Boy would have been amazing. And then I'm trying to reach out to their management and see what's happening.
You can make
there.
something work, yeah.
So the point is, I would do it, but it's got to be big.
Mm.
And another thing people don't realize, why the Dana Whites haven't done it, is this is a beautiful model. It's clean. It's like the Olympics of MMA, right?
Yeah.
You've got to have this.
True.
All those influencer boxing things are sideshows. No disrespect. The guys are coming out and banging it up, and it's incredible to watch. But they're sideshows because they just don't have a presence of ranking and all of that type of stuff to carry them through.
Yeah.
Okay? So in many ways, you need to also orchestrate it properly. I would love to do some matchups, and we don't control the narrative with a lot of influencers and also celebrities because they've got 40 managers, and the mother also wants to get involved, and the freaking brother's got something going on, and so you end up sitting at a table going, okay, who am I talking to here? Is it you and you? I know, but hang on. He's got a music promoter that also wants a piece of the cake because he's got this. You're going to use his lighting crew for this, and you're like,
what's going on?
can't you guys just arrive at the EFC at an EFC venue and fight each other, and this is the pay?
That's it.
No, it's got to be. Everybody's got to have a piece.
Wow.
That's the catch, and that's at that high level. So I think we could. do some influence. Yeah, if anybody, if there are any relevant influencer beefs, hit me up. I'll do it.
I think I'd take like a grappling tournament against like an influencer type thing.
No, man. If people want to see bare knuckle stuff, you can't mess
brutal,
around
no
with.
ways.
You gotta get in there and do what that Hill kid is doing.
Yeah.
That white kid, the jacked up kid.
Yeah.
His name is Hill. Something.
I think
Hill.
so.
I don't even know he's a celebrity. I just know that he knocked the hell out of somebody. So there's like a layman going, "Hey, cool, let's watch that."
Now I think I'd do like a grappling thing against someone like at the Hicks.
That's
you know?
cool. I mean,
Nothing
it's
crazy.
submission guys. The submission.
I know submission kings.
Guys.
But I mean, like in
probably
terms
do
of that's not an avenue that you guys would go to because it's
we looked at that. When they were starting out, prior to them starting out, we'd had laid out a plans of our own one to launch,
like a grappling,
quintet type thing.
Yeah.
And then we looked at the viability. No disrespect, I love the jiu-jitsu community, but in terms of palatability for the average fan,
in terms of
doesn't translate. You got to be sitting there like, I know that guy that's a Kimura, otherwise, and it's just.
It's so boring.
Well, not boring. Like if you
don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, in terms of like the average watcher.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's where we were like, okay, but what can we do with it? Where can we take this? And we just kept on falling on, okay, who's going to sponsor it? What broadcasters are going to pay for this? And that's always what the narrative will be. Is unfortunately, and I hate it because we started being those guys that was like, okay, what broadcaster is going to take it? So at the end of the day, that's what you got to ask yourself. What's the viability long term for it?
Nah, damn. Okay.
Whereas like boxing sells,
True.
MMA finally sells, and the other sports.
Because like there's no knockouts in BJJ. There's no.
But how's this for bizarre? Why has Muay Thai not taken off?
Yeah, and I remember this being like also like an.
Muay Thai is so legit as a fighting sport. I love Muay Thai.
Even,
But you can't even, besides like Bukau and like major guys, no one even knows what's going on there.
True.
So that also speaks volumes to how that sport gets digested into a promotion or a business that can actually spit it out and running. It could have gone very differently for African MMA. If you didn't have guys that were like, okay, this is how we're going to do it, we could have started. There have been guys before us that started absolute weirdo stuff. Just also, it's the right time, it's the timing, it's everything.
Crazy.
Yeah,
because I mean, not everything's going to take off also. Like, it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, you're a busy man. I'm not going to keep you for any time longer. This has been dope. But yeah, getting to finally do this. I know I've been hunting you for a long time.
Yeah, dude.
But
I'm sorry I've been elusive, but this is where you get me. You get me at the PI on fight week.
Closer to the time.
Place. This is my zone, my fight zone.
Makes sense.
I'm like happy to be here and talk about these guys and this incredible business and this and what we're doing here. I mean, even if I can, like for EFC 110, we've got 3 title fights lined up. Oof. We've got Mark Hume is taking on
Prince.
Peace is taking on Mark Hume for the welterweight title. We've got Ixon, who beat Iga with a crazy knockout, coming back to challenge Iga, who's the current featherweight champion.
Yeah.
Iga just wants to get his papers so he can go fight overseas.
Finally.
But it's like he's got to do this, and if he clears his board with this guy, man, he's really stitched it up. And then the lightweight title, man. I mean, we're gonna blow this place off its hinges.
Nah. Dang, that's one to be excited about.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely be here. Graeme, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate this so much. This has been Fighting Talk. Myself, Tshuck, and the matchmaking extraordinaire, Graeme Cartmell.
Anytime. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
Oh, that's fighting talk.